Kid Quick zipped through the city, his sneakers splashing through puddles that reflected the neon glow of downtown. Saving that little girl from the runaway bus should have been the end of his night. A nice, clean wrap-up before grabbing a late-night burrito. But something felt wrong. A strange, unsettling feeling prickled at the back of his neck. A hero's intuition he'd learned never to ignore. It was a disturbance in the city's rhythm. A note out of key in its nightly symphony. He slowed to a jog, then a walk, his senses on high alert. That's when he heard it. A sound that echoed between the tall, sleeping buildings. A grating noise, like heavy metal scraping against rough stone. It was ugly, unnatural, and it was close. Kid Quick veered from the main street, his curiosity pulling him toward the source. He stepped into a narrow alley, a dark, forgotten space between a laundromat and a pawn shop. The air was thick with the smell of damp concrete and old rain. Water dripped from rusty fire escapes, each drop a tiny tick on a clock counting down to something. The alley was a maze of shadows and forgotten things. Overflowing trash cans rattled, not from a stray cat, but from a tremor that seemed to run through the ground itself. A cold, sudden wind rushed past him, whipping his jacket tight against his chest, even though the air just a moment ago had been completely still. It was the kind of cold that didn't just chill your skin. It felt like it was trying to reach inside to touch something deeper. He stood perfectly motionless, letting his eyes adjust to the oppressive darkness. And then he saw it. At the far end of the alley, partially cloaked in shadow, stood a tall figure. It was humanoid, but the proportions were all wrong, too long, too thin, like a reflection in a distorted mirror. Its eyes, they weren't eyes at all, but 2 points of faint, glowing blue light cutting through the gloom with an eerie, digital coldness. This thing, whatever it was, wasn't human. At least, not anymore. Its stillness was more menacing than any threat. The figure spoke, and the sound was even more jarring than the scraping metal. The voice was deep, but it glitched and stuttered, like a broken robot trying to piece together words from corrupted data files. Kid Quick's sister has, detected you. The words hung in the air. Each one, a digital fragment that didn't belong in this organic, rain-soaked world. It knew his name. That was the first red flag. The second was the word system. It sounded corporate, clinical, and completely out of place. Kid Quick blinked, his mind racing to process the bizarre scene. This was one of the usual low-level thugs or costumed crazies he dealt with on a nightly basis. This was something new. Something different. He tried to keep his voice steady, projecting a confidence he wasn't entirely feeling. System, who are you? And what's with the spooky light show? He quipped, gesturing towards the glowing eyes. A little humor usually helped to disarm his opponents, or at least gauge their state of mind. The figure didn't laugh. It didn't even react. Instead, it took a step forward. The pavement beneath its foot didn't just hold its weight, it fractured. Spiderweb cracks spread out from the point of impact. As if something incredibly dense had just been placed there, it took another step, with the same result. The sound of cracking concrete now accompanied the steady, rhythmic advance. I am the Shadowrunner, the glitching voice announced. And I need your speed. The words hit Kid Quick harder than a physical blow. Need his speed? What did that even mean? Was this another scientist trying to steal his powers? A rival from another dimension. His mind spun with possibilities, but he had no time to explore them. Before he could even form a follow-up question, before his muscles could fully tense to run, the Shadowrunner lunged. It moved with an impossible, blurring speed almost as fast as him. The air cracked with its sudden movement. Kid Quick's instincts screamed. He dodged on pure reflex, throwing himself backward, his feet sliding on the wet asphalt. He came to a stop a dozen feet away, his heart hammering against his ribs. That was too close. Way too close. No one moved that fast. No one except him. He looked up, his playful demeanor gone, replaced by a sharp, focused intensity. Okay, he thought, his internal monologue kicking in. This just got interesting. This wasn't just a fight. This was a challenge. The Shadowrunner straightened up, its glowing blue eyes fixed on him, calculating. It showed no signs of exertion. It slowly raised a hand, its fingers long and metallic. Blue electricity, raw and chaotic, sparked from its fingertips, casting the alley in a strobe of unnatural light. The smell of ozone filled the air, sharp and electric. The energy crackled, hungry. Kid Quick responded in kind. He tightened the custom-made gloves on his hands, the friction-resistant fabric ready for action. He crouched low, his body a coiled spring of kinetic energy. Round one! Then, he said, the words a low promise. The alley, a moment ago a place of quiet decay, exploded into motion. It was a blur of red and blue, a clash of flesh and machine, a battle for the very concept of speed itself, fought in the forgotten shadows of the city. The night was far from over.